Residential tech talk, lighting specialist to residential tech
Home automation to smart house.
All right, we are back on the Residential Tech Talks podcast and excited to dive into a category that has just been absolutely booming and getting a lot of attention and talk in this space over the last couple of years, and rightfully so. And we're getting to do it today with Mr. Scott Stephenson, Senior Director of Product over there at Hunter Douglas. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Thank you for asking. It's a fun time in this space, like I mentioned, right? It's getting a lot of attention, a lot of excitement, and I look forward to diving into it with you. But before we do that, I want to give you the chance to set yourself up for those that may or may not know you, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and path to your role there at Hunter Douglas.
Okay, sure. So as you said, I'm head of product for motorization globally for Hunter Douglas. I've been here now in this role effectively for about 7 years, but my time in I'll call it the CI world, the CD world, whatever you want to call it, it's approaching 20 years at this point. Prior to Hunter Douglas, I spent a bunch of time at Control 4. I managed all of their lighting control, among other things. And then I got my start in the space at a defunct company now, but called Colorado VNet that some people may remember. So I love the CI world. I really do.
Yeah, and you mentioned your time there at Control 4. Your lighting and comfort, is that right? So, I mean, this is an area, I know lighting and shading get talked about a lot together. So was it a seamless transition, entering the role at Hunter Douglas?
I would definitely not say it was seamless. I never realized how complicated shades could be. I definitely, I had some knowledge of it, of course, because in addition to managing the lighting, I had managed our integration with shades. But of course, Control 4 never made their own shades. And when I got into this role, I realized, wow, there is a lot to this that I did not know.
Well, that's awesome, an awesome perspective, right? Because that, I think, goes to show that, an integrator out there that is dabbling in lighting right now, which is also the talk of the town. It's not a seamless transition. So there's some attention that needs to be given and proper attention to be successful in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's awesome. Your timing of moving over too, I thought was pretty kind of unique, right? And you were right on the cusp of right before things started to truly take off, I think, in this space. So, talk about that and, what it was like transition. You did a little bit, but let's dive a little deeper on what it was like getting yourself up to speed on it.
Yeah. I'd say a few things. Definitely the timing from the standpoint of what this industry was doing with regards to shades was really, in window coverings in general, was, really great, because it was right as the category was starting to really take off. To be honest with you, when I joined Hunter Douglas, they had very little presence within the CI world. I think at the time we may have had somewhere on the order of 20 CI dealers, and those were ones that had, somehow, a local salesperson of ours had managed to, find this particular person and worked with them. We didn't have any programs that were designed for CI dealers. They were really designed around traditional window coverings dealers, that's the only thing they do. The programs weren't right. The way we were trying to, approach the market wasn't right. There was nobody at the company who knew the space. I really tried to get people within the company just aware of the market opportunity within the custom integrator world. And then, kind of help people figure out, okay, we can't go, if we're going to go after that market, we can't do it and just go out with our, same programs that we have for these traditional window coverings dealers. The CI dealers they're not going to understand it. They're going to get overwhelmed very, very quickly. And, and they're gonna fail then. So what we really did is we created our custom integrator program that kind of was, tailored to the market from a variety of standpoints. It allowed you to kind of get your foot in the door with us without having, 3 pallets of sample books show up at your door, with all 27 or whatever it is of our various product types.
Yep.
I mean, it's overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming. So we really kind of culled it to a particular, set of product types that are the ones that we felt like this market would really, embrace, our higher end products in particular, and do it in a way that made sense for the channel.
For sure. Oh, well, I want to dive deeper into the program, but I want to rewind just a little bit because you mentioned something that I think is important to point out, is that the shading side needed to be educated as well. So,
Yeah,
so I'm sure
100%.
what was that like for you, getting in there and being able to talk to them about, what the CI world is really like and how they have to adapt?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I remember so I joined in October of 2017. And in, I don't know, January or February, so I hadn't been here that long. We had our national sales meeting with, 150 of our salespeople there, plus all the company executives and marketing people and all kinds of other people. So, there's several hundred people at this. And I organized basically like a little panel with a few of our sales managers to talk about the custom integrator world and just help people understand it and stuff. And it was really interesting. We finished, and this guy immediately comes up to me and starts talking to me and asking me all these questions about the channel and my experience in it and what we needed to do to be successful in it. And, I see all this and I have no idea who this guy is, but, he's telling me how he sees a lot of opportunity there. And I find out then, as he's talking to me, that he was David Sonnenberg, who was he's currently our chairman of the board. He, at the time, he and his brother were running the company. And so it was, while there was definitely maybe a lack of knowledge about the space, there was a lot of interest in it.
Yeah. Were there any misconceptions or things that you were like, wow, I can't believe they thought that about the CI industry?
I think, I think maybe the biggest thing would be that they didn't necessarily understand just how complex an integrator's job is, and the degree to which all of these pieces that they do have to fit together, and the slightest problem can just cascade, because there's all this interconnectivity, and I think there was just maybe not necessarily a lack of understanding, but a lack of the scale of what say a quality problem can cause down. It's like, oh well, okay, you're thinking, well, all right, you had an issue with this shade, well, that means now that one shade can't be integrated, and you gotta, it's this whole thing that just, it's like tumbleweed just going along. And so I think that was one of the biggest things, that maybe there were, maybe not a misconception, but just a lack of perception of the scale of it.
Yeah. Now, I imagine it was more, maybe it was, I don't know, but more than just you talking to them and educating them, right? What have they done to get themselves up to speed, or to, be more familiar with what goes on day to day for an integrator?
Yeah, I think, when we first started out, and when we created our CI program, one of the great things to see was, some of those high level executives coming to CEDIA, coming to the events that where integrators are, meeting them, talking to them, understanding their issues. We did a lot of, then for our individual salespeople, we did a lot of training. We also, in addition to myself, we started to build out a team that was a little more focused on it. We at the time hired a business development manager who had been one of those salespeople, one of the original salespeople at Control Force, who I'd known for many years, and somebody who knew the industry, knew the people, knew the contacts. That made a huge difference in him being able to go out and do a joint sales call with our salesperson, who frankly was probably really intimidated to go talk to this integrator because, I mean, our salespeople typically come from a design background.
Yeah.
They're they know the fabrics inside and out, but the technology scares them, and then they get themselves into the situation where the integrator is talking about integration and networking and all this stuff and the technology behind it, and it was like they would kind of freeze up. But if they could do it with that business development manager who was totally comfortable in the space, then all of a sudden they start to go, oh, this isn't so hard.
Right. Well, that speaks to, I mean, we've seen it on this side of things, right? The integrator that knows all the technical stuff, but when they start talking to whether it's a client or someone in the space that's like, they're talking about designs and fabrics and colors and things like that, they might get intimidated.
Yep,
so, I mean, it's a good practice on both sides of the fence there to get more comfortable.
Yeah, it's funny, when, I don't know, at some point, not long after I had started here, I was coming back from a business trip and I was on the airport shuttle to go get my car and saw that there were a couple guys from one of our dealers. They had their logo shirts on, and I started talking to them, and they were dealers of ours and had been dealers of Control 4. And so we were just talking about stuff, and they were funny because they're like, they were saying, oh yeah, our sales rep from Hunter Douglas is great. She comes in, she does all this training, she's really fantastic. And they're both like, but I have to admit, my eyes start to glaze over when she gets into the fabrics.
It makes sense. They're not used to it.
Yeah.
Well, that to the point of the program, right? That's where that comes into to be a big help. And I mean, having been there since the launch of it 5 years ago, is that right?
Yeah, about I think 2019, so it'll be 6.
All right. So you've seen it from its conception to where it is today. Talk about how it's grown and evolved, and just the benefits it's brought to the table for both sides of this equation.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no question it's grown. We now are well over 500 CI dealers from the 20 or so that we started with. So that's been huge. We've joined a couple of the major buying groups. We're part of ProSource, so I'm headed to ProSource Summit this coming week.
That's right, like 2 days as we sit here, I think it starts.
Yeah, and then we've also been an ASEAN member for a couple of years now, and that's been great. I think they just more broadly within the company, there's just a lot more comfort with the space. Yeah, and of course we've done CEDIA every year since. Well, I would say every year since 2019, except
right.
One was canceled
that
and
something
one
happened.
apart.
I forget what that was all about, but
but yeah. So and we have a dedicated sales manager, sales director, I should say, for custom integration. She, her 100% focus is on the channel, and it's been great. We've really seen a lot of success, and from the standpoint then of our dealers, I think what. A lot of the dealers that we've had come on, have done so, maybe either as their first, foray into window treatments, and I think for them, it's something that because of the just the level of training we have and all that kind of stuff, and our Hunter Douglas installation services, which I can get into in a minute, but it takes some of that fear factor out. And then but a lot of them too have maybe they were doing somebody else's window coverings, but they've decided to add us because they realized they were missing out on a huge market opportunity because they only had a very limited selection of product types and fabrics. Sure. And for some people that's fine, but for a high-end client with a designer, that may not be what they want.
Right.
They want the high-end fabrics, they want the fancier product types, or maybe it's just that the way that the room is, and the light is coming in and stuff, they need more control over the light. So it's all of these different kinds of things that make the dealers realize, hey, I've got an opportunity here to really expand my business.
Yeah. You mentioned some of those success stories. Is there any sort of themes that play out across them that you could pick on or point out, as far as, someone that does get into this business, into the shade and window treatments, a consistent theme that makes them successful, or is it kind of,
Yeah, no, I would say probably the biggest thing we see that makes a dealer successful is dedicating somebody to on the sales side to their either shading, or sometimes we see it as lighting and shading. But in particular, the ones that we see that have been really successful are, they either take somebody that is already on staff and say, no, you are now our dedicated person for this. You're going to understand it. You're gonna dive in. You're going to actually be able to talk about fabrics and do that. Or they hire somebody who comes in with more of that background and is kind of comfortable talking about it. That's where we've seen really strong success from our dealers. And the ones who've done it are like, oh my God, I'm paying for that person 10 times over because it's just made such a huge difference in their ability to sell window shades.
Well, and we know the opportunity for those that aren't involved, of getting involved in this business, but also, one of the reasons we know the opportunity that exists is because another benefit that's kind of come out of this program, and that's the data that you guys have been able to collect and then report out on to show sort of trends in the space and, repeat myself, to show where those opportunities and gaps exist. So I know recently you had the report that came out. And is that new this year, or have you guys been doing that? So that's
that was new this year. And inspired by some stuff we'd seen from other companies in the space. But, I think what it really did is probably the biggest thing is it just highlighted that opportunity I was talking about where, if the only thing you're currently offering your clients is a roller screen shade, solar screen shade, you're missing out on 60% of the market.
Right.
And I think that's just the thing that we really wanted to help people understand with that data is, and these, this wasn't just, this was our custom integrator specific data. This wasn't, this isn't broadly across. This is looking what our custom integrators are selling to their customers, and only 40% of it is roller shades. So 60% of it is, covered by things like, sheer shadings, where you have a lot more creativity in the way you're controlling that light coming from the outside, or say a top down bottom up type shade where the homeowner really needs they want to be able to let light in, but they need privacy. So there's or Roman shades, which can have really, really high end fabrics, and that's, I think, the other thing that we see is like some of those other categories might be, lower from a unit standpoint, but are significantly higher from a profitability standpoint, just because, you take a product that, you can only get so fancy with a screen fabric. I mean, it's, 1% open, 5% open, 10% open, whatever, black or white.
Right.
But, you start talking about like say a Roman shade, the fabric alone can cause that same window covering to quintuple in retail price. So, now you're talking about, taking what would have been maybe $1,000 shade going into the window, and now you just sold them a $5,000 shade for that window. So it's a huge profitability driver.
Yeah. Any other, so I know we highlighted in that report on the Residential Tech Today website about some of the things that were able to come out of it. Do you see sort of that report maybe, evolving in some way moving forward? Are there other things that, without, telling me something that after this you have to off me for us talking about out in public, but any other ways you could see it evolving and providing other benefits in terms of what you're able to pull out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't really given it a lot of thought yet. We kind of wanted to see how it was received and what people think. And I like I said, I'm heading to ProSource. We'll be able to talk to a lot of our dealers this week, and I'll be curious. Did they see it? What did they think? Anything else that you guys would find valuable? That's what I really want to do is make sure we're providing valuable information. And frankly, the best way to do that is to ask people what kind of information would be valuable to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, from this side of things, I'll tell you, it was an awesome thing to dive into and just see sort of, like you mentioned, that untapped potential of other areas of the business where they might not be thinking, because in my head, when I thought about shading, it is, or the automated shading, it is the roller shades, and that's what it just comes to mind naturally, I think, because we see it so often. But there is, to your point, that 60%, market share out there that is untapped by a lot of these integrators. So really cool stuff. What other just to kind of wrap it up, any other trends or things that you're keeping an eye on as we dive deeper into 25 that you think will impact this business or that integrators should know about?
I think probably the biggest trend I see is, with so many integrators getting into lighting, not just lighting control. They've been doing lighting control for years. But as they're getting into actual lighting design, I think they're really starting to think then about a little more about, how does exterior light, natural light, affect what's going on with my interior lighting, and how can I marry these two worlds of automated window treatments and my my lighting design so that they're benefiting each other. And that might be things like, well, okay, maybe at a certain time of day, the customer wants some warmer light, but what's coming in from the outside would be cooler light. Well, what can I do about that? Well, I can maybe use a shear shading that's going to soften that light coming in and make it not so, still allowing a lot of light in, but make it not so bright that it's overwhelming what you're trying to do from an interior lighting standpoint.
Yeah.
And then the other way we see those two things varying up is, about, I guess 2 years ago at CEDIA, or 2 CEDIAs ago, I should say, we introduced our Aura lighted shades or illuminated shades, which actually generate light from your window covering. So you can imagine, a lot of the lighting design that's done is all about, making sure that you're not you're not just shining light down from above, that you're, blasting it up towards the ceiling, or you're washing the walls to try and, get light that way. But you think about a lot of these modern spaces have lots of big windows, so you don't have a lot of wall to wash. And we've talked with one of the lighting design companies that's really embedded in the CI space, and they love Aura because it's a way to generate light from a space that actually is at nighttime can be very dark. You shine a light on it. Well, it's a typical fabric is just absorbing that light. It's not bouncing it back out. Whereas with an Aura shade, you can really combine your interior lighting design and your what would be your window coverings, but have that benefit your interior lighting design as well. So I think the marriage of those two spaces is really where we're starting to see things trend.
You think back to your early career day. Did you ever think you'd be talking about the stuff you're talking about right now?
Not a chance.
Is that wild? It's pretty cool though, right? It's just goes to show how this space has evolved. And one other thing that comes to mind too, as far as things I'm seeing, and I know it's a big part of kind of what you guys are doing there at Hunter Douglas too, is there's an added story to this with the energy efficiency, and I think you guys play in the is it the Inflation Reduction Act and like the benefits there of being able to I want to say write some of this off, but the tax credits that come along with it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, there. As part of the Inflation Reduction Act, there are various tax credits that you can get by adding energy efficient products to your home. So last year, I actually, not by choice, but my air conditioner died, and we ended up putting in a high efficiency heat pump, and I actually got a $2,000 tax credit on that when I just did my taxes. Same thing applies to window coverings now, and they have to be what's called AERC rated, and then there's some other kind of interesting rules along the way. But like one of our dealers can help guide the customer through that, and certainly our salespeople can help the dealers understand it. But there are definitely certain products that we make that qualify for that as a energy efficient product that can be added to the home, and then you're eligible for up to a $1,200 tax credit. And that tax, I think it officially went into effect 2 years ago, and it's for at least under current law, it's another 8 years, and you can keep getting it. Like a single taxpayer can get that credit every year for 8 more years. So if they
Wow.
wanted to add some
Yeah.
shades this year and then add some more next year, they'd get the tax credit each year.
Well, it's cool because it shows the kind of range of conversations and ways to pitch the product too, whether it's like from the pure lighting design and wanting to, use these products in a way that creates that aura that you're, no pun intended, that, within the home and that sort of thing. Or it could be, the client out there that is interested in the energy efficiency side of things and, looking to make their home, their living space more efficient in that perspective. So just a lot of range of things to learn about and ways to be able to talk about this space that I think is really cool. And again, just goes to show how it's evolved and the opportunities that are out there for integrators.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always tell people that when you really boil it down, there's about 4 fundamental benefits of the various smart home types of devices that are out there. There's convenience, just making your life easier kind of thing. There's comfort. So think of a Nest thermostat would be all about the comfort level in your home and that kind of thing. There's energy efficiency. So again, the Nest might hit on energy efficiency as well. And then there's security. So and security can be things like it's all about feeling more secure in your home,
Right.
and having your home more secure, like if you're away. There's very few product categories out there that hit all 4 of those benefits. The 2 that I think of always are, frankly, lighting and shading. From a shading standpoint, absolutely. From convenience, my God, compared to having to walk around your house every day, opening and closing shades, it's a huge difference. From a comfort standpoint, having the ability to just automatically have them, maybe close on those west-facing windows when the sun is shining in brightly, heating up the house, no question.
Yeah.
From a security standpoint, being able to have those shades close automatically at sunset, so when you come home at night and you flip on the lights, you're not in a fishbowl.
Right.
Having them open and close automatically while you're gone makes it look like somebody's there. And then energy efficiency we just talked about as well. So really hitting on all of those benefits. I think that's one of the things I love about the category.
Yeah, it really. It's truly innovative and fun to watch those that get into it and are successful with it. How they're able to be successful and use it in all of those ways that you mentioned and talk about it with clients and that sort of thing. So one we'll continue to follow. It's a great category, one that it continues its meteoric rise. And appreciate you taking the time to talk about it with us, and we look forward to continuing to follow your story. So we appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, I really appreciate you having me.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Residential Tech Talks podcast, please subscribe to us on the platform you're listening on. Also, be sure to follow Residential Tech Today on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Residential Tech Talk, fantastic lighting specialist to our residential tech.
Home automation, smart device, home or smart house.